With that being said, let's talk about Alex Pereira. Guys, someone was asking in the chat earlier, where would the UFC be in 2024 without Max Holloway and without Alex Pereira? And the answer is in a terrible place. This guy is this is 4 title fights in less than a year. Now, one of these took place in 2023, but like within a 365-day span. That's what Alex Pereira has been doing. And he's going out there on short notice, broken toes. Fucking, I'm in Australia. I've got 2.5 weeks to get ready. And then he still goes out there and blows the doors off of people. Now, of course, he had it up. He had a tough little run here, but in the end, look at what he did. He fucking smashed the face of Khalil Rountree. He had to earn it, but look at who got his hand raised. And we talk about this all the time, man. If you watch the UFC long enough, everyone thinks what the toughest thing to do is to win a weight class title and then go win another weight class title. And to be sure, that is extremely impressive. That is extremely difficult to do. That's impressive. Losing your title and then winning it back like later on in your career, insanely impressive. That's also remarkable. But to me, the hardest thing to do in mixed martial arts is to win a UFC belt, hold it up, and then dare all challengers to come and take it. Because everybody thinks the answer is, well, if you're ranked 8th, there's no way you could possibly win. Or it'll be this guy that beats him, somebody tailor-made for their specific weaknesses or whatever. And that's sometimes true, but really it's not. What I have found watching the sport for nearly 20 fucking years at this point is that it is the title challenger that sometimes you least expect can often be the most difficult one that they end up going up against because nobody expects them to do it. They have a lot of time to they'll get somebody more senior in their career. And so they have all this tape to look at them, all kinds of situations where Tim Elliott against Demetrius Johnson is like the clear example to me. Dude, no one thought Tim Elliott had a shot in that fight. They're like, how the hell is he going to beat Demetrius Johnson? This isn't even the right weight class. Dude, he gave him a tough ass fight. He gave him a really, really tough fight. That kind of thing happens all the time. Everyone thought it was going to be John Dodson. Well, fucking DJ beat him twice, right? This is what I mean. Here is a perfect example. The hardest thing to do in MMA, in my judgment, is not just what Poatan did tonight, but tonight is the perfect example of that. Winning a UFC weight class title, standing a post, and then accepting challengers is so fucking remarkably difficult. Beating top contenders over time in the Ultimate Fighting Championship is an insanely difficult task. And he got pushed tonight. Make no mistake about it. But look at the quality in the end. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, in the end, skills win fights. And credit to Khalil Rountree and his team. As I just mentioned, they took away the head kicks. They took away, not for a long portion, they took away the head kicks. For a long portion, but not ultimately, they took away the leg kicks. They took the left hook was nowhere to be found in this particular fight. Key core weapons of what makes Poatan, they either neutralized or made it to their benefit. And so he had to go back to the drawing board in this fight and start from fucking scratch on this guy. Going back to the jab, being very careful about the setting up, not getting too overcommitted with position. We're not trying to reach for the clinch here. We're not going to throw leg kicks from this position anymore. We're just going to keep jabbing. All right, a little bit here, jabbing. Maybe we'll throw a right here, kind of mix things up a little bit. But he had to go back to the foundations of his game to get any part of it working again. And it worked. I cannot overstate to you how difficult that is for most fighters, including most elite fighters. Most elite fighters have a game. This is what they do. And if that doesn't work and they're still 5, 10, 15 minutes, they have no other gear to go to. And in fact, I'm going to say this in a complimentary way, that is what ultimately happened to Khalil Rountree. Khalil Rountree had a game, and it was very, very potent. But once Poatan was able to plug little holes in it and it began to leak, there was no going back. That did not happen to Poatan. He had to give up things that he normally goes to. He had to give them up in frequency and in certain cases altogether. But he had other basic core. When I say basic, I don't mean simple, or rather, excuse me, I don't mean easy. I do mean simple, but I don't mean like worthless. No, I mean foundational skills about the right way to pressure, foundational skills about where to target your punches, to what extent body work was relevant, which kicks to throw upon which kind of movement. If he's going to take away the left hook, what can I do to draw out weapons, slow this guy down, get the jab in his face, bludgeon and slow and just crush his right eye, affect his vision. We had to just kind of chop him down little by little by little to become a more manageable whole. And then that is where you begin to see the other parts. And what he was ultimately able to do was, again, go into the body. It was a lot of mixing it up by the end there, of course. It wasn't just one or two or even three things. But the big one that you saw that began to really start the beginning of the end, a couple of doubling up on the same side, like doubling up with the right hook. But the big one was getting Rountree, not a big jabber. So what he likes to throw is that the big one he throws is right hook, left straight, or left straight, right hook. That's his favorite combo and a variety. But getting him to extend on his left, Poatan changing angles off that way, and then cracking him there. And that's where he was able to get some of the power punches that really began the offensive flood that essentially drowned Rountree in the end. What he did tonight, people are going to say, oh, you're a fucking number 8 guy. Like, how tough is that? Dude, fuck off, whoever's saying that. Like, whoever's saying that's a fucking idiot. Just, you can mark my words on that. I don't know who it is. I haven't had a chance to go look, but just like, remember this moment. Anyone be like, well, you had trouble with the number 8 guy. He's not that good. This is a moron. This is a moron. He was able to bleed a guy, quite literally bleed a guy out, and then use his more devastating traditional weapons to really close the show thereafter. But he had to take his time to do it. He had to be very measured about it. He had to be very careful about it. And that is the mark. That is like real championship metal, if ever there was one. That's what champions do. It's like find ways to win, but like look at exactly how he did it. Okay, I got to start foundationally and then build. I can't just sort of waltz into like what I traditionally like to do with a left hook. Can't do it. It's really not there. This guy's ready for it. It's, for the most part, not very effective. Can't get close enough to him for some of these body shots that I like to land. I got to do something else. That is the mark. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is the mark of a motherfucking champion. Incredible. Let's take a look at some of these stats if we can. Let's look at these numbers, shall we? Let me blow this up a little bit. No, they're up. Okay. I want to look at position by targeting. This is the targeting. So targeting by Pereira. Still a lot to the head, 13% to the body, 14% to the leg. Obviously, these are all going to land a distance. There was a little bit in the clinch, but not much. But really not a lot of head hunting. There was some head hunting, but you can imagine for a guy who's going to be in retreat, like your opponent's going to be, going to the body and to the leg was really important. But look how it really never was able to ultimately deter him. And you could see Pereira had like numeric leads, but he was very tight, a little bit more this round. Rountree throwing, I think this was his last stand. See in round 3, because he kind of had real measured responses. This was his last stand. This was like, I'm going to pour out what I've got left. And then that ultimately led to the flood you saw in round 4. That was the big one. Let's see in terms of significant strike by round. Yeah, pretty close, man. 15-10 in favor of, again, these are quantitative, not qualitative totals. 18-11, 31-25, very close in that one. Look, zippy takedowns. And then 63-15. That's where everything just kind of came undone for him. Now, let me do something here. I want to see. Okay, so for Pereira, the targeting 72, 13, 14. 72 to the head, 13 to the body, 14 to the leg. Let's see what that's like in his other fight with Izzy, because that was the one that went the long way. Let's see. 72, 13, 14, basically. Yeah, look at this. Completely different. Look at this. So here's Poatan in the blue this time. 46% to the head, 29% to the body, 24% to the leg. This tells you how much the jab in the other fight was more relevant. This is proof positive. He didn't have to work for the jab nearly as much in this one. And the jab is obviously relevant to the body too, but look at how much the jab to the top of the head was absolutely critical. And in the end, I know there was more than that, right? It was obviously the onslaught at the end caught up with him too. But this is what I mean in terms of the targeting. He had to dig foundationally back to a core version of his game to have any kind of success ultimately. He is credited with a knockdown in round 4, obviously, right? Yes. Credited with a knockdown there. And that's it. No takedown attempts, no nothing. Significant strike totals ultimately. One here, I'll show you one real quickly. 127 for Poatan out of 209, just 61 is obviously not going to be enough for Rountree. You could see it kind of he had a good third round in terms of trying to push back, but it simply wasn't enough. So what should be next for Poatan? Well, it's a good question. I would say you heard him. Doesn't want to go to 185 because he doesn't want to get in the way of Sean Strickland. I think that's a good idea. I don't like Poatan at 185 anyway. So he can stay and fight Ankalaev, which we'll see. We'll see what Ankalaev does at the next pay-per-view later this month. Or he can go to heavyweight, which I would love to see him try. I think that there's still time for him. I don't know how that would go. It will really depend on the matchup, but I think that would be quite critical. As for Khalil Rountree, that was a lot of damage that he took. I hope he takes a lot of time off. I hope the UFC gives him a bonus. I don't know what the bonus system is going to look like at this point, but I certainly hope that there's something for him. Let me see here. Here are the scorecards. So, yeah, boy, look at this. Rountree was winning that fight 2 rounds to 1. I kind of thought it might have been 1-1, and for sure he won the third. But Rountree won the first and the second on all 3 judges' scorecards. How about that? Interesting. He got numerically outstruck, but the qualitative difference, certainly in the first, and then obviously according to the judges in the second, there was a big difference there. He obviously got the job done in the third, and then the fourth was going to be a 10-8 if it didn't get stopped. How about that for Khalil Rountree? He took 2 rounds off the guy. Goddamn impressive, if I do say so myself. Very, very, very impressive by him.